Why is it so effective to self-coach and self-record at the same time when we practice? Sometimes when I achieve something really good and I'm practicing, I'm not entirely sure how I did it and have trouble replicating it the same way. In the moment, we cannot catch all of the details because when we are playing, our attention is split between the act of playing the music and the feedback loop that's happening. So we cannot catch everything. Also, I don't know about you, but a lot of times my best playing happens when I don't think about it and I'm just enjoying. And of course, the problem is that if I'm in the middle of enjoying the music and I'm in the moment, you can't really self-analyze that, right? Because you're not going to remember. It's going to be all a blur. So this is where self-recording becomes very, very helpful. We cannot just command ourselves, all right, just don't think and hope it's going to be great. It doesn't work that way. You know it, I know it. So self-recording allows us to listen and watch our own playing without being distracted by the act of the playing itself, and therefore we become our own teacher. Self-recording also can help to solve problems much quicker, and you are able to notice things that otherwise you might have missed. Now also the act of recording itself is going to put that tiny little bit of pressure on yourself. Many of us do not like to listen to our own playing, and we cringe when we watch ourselves or listen back. So by doing this as a bonus, you are going to be practicing your muscle of courage and slowly but surely develop a sense of self-trust through evidence-based progress. So let's get into the how. Here is a brief sample from a longer video I made for myself a few days before filming this video. I'm practicing a very well-known excerpt by Beethoven from his 9th Symphony. Some of you are going to recognize this. Essentially, what I'm doing in this video is I'm giving my future self some instruction, some things to remember, why, and things that I'm trying in the moment as I am talking through the video. So here it is. Okay, so here's what's happening. In 105, we're growing. When we get to then a little bit less, but hold on to the tension a little bit here. Very even here, because the woodwinds are playing those 16th notes at the end. Then a release tension here. The crescendo on this. Okay, so let's put this together. Also here. These two winds are playing those 16th notes with us. But they have to be, don't do any change of rhythm here. Plus. Passive. Okay, so this C, this last note, C, it's important. So the bow. So there's more tension. Maybe sotasto, but use more bow. And very important, cut this C off on time because the clarinets have to play a C sharp right after this on the 8th note rest. And flutes finish that. Winds just played. Okay, now in this measure, the symphony plays on the off beat, on 2nd and 4th beat. So the phrase goes to beat 2 and beat 4. Alright, so maybe this gave you a few ideas of how to do something like this, but there are many ways to do this. Now, the way I approach it is, imagine that there are two yous, okay? The player you and the listener, who is also the idea generator and the problem solver. Next, you have to know what problem you are trying to solve. We want to know kind of where we're going, otherwise we're going to get lost. Next, we want to make a very easy recording setup. Luckily, our smartphones make this very easy to do, so long as we have enough storage space and we have turned on airplane mode, because we don't want distractions from the internet. I know that the majority of you watching are using your phones to watch this video and probably my other videos, so I know that you have access to a recording device right now in your pocket. Now, it's a good idea to keep your videos short and focus on what it is you're trying to solve. Of course, it depends on your situation. The Beethoven video I made ended up being 6 minutes long. It's a little longer than I wanted, but I got a lot of good information in there. Now, you want to talk to yourself in the video in a way that will be most helpful to you. And this can vary from one individual to the next, and it also depends on what it is you're working on. If it's just a playthrough to observe your progress, you might want to just hit record, play, and not say anything. That's fine, I do that also. However, if you are breaking something down and you're working on solving problems or experimenting, then it can be helpful to remind yourself of how you're doing something and why. Or if you want to try something 3 different ways and be like, okay, now I'm going to do it this way, okay, now I'm going to do it that way, and so on. And that when you're listening back, you know which one was which. Okay? And if you're watching back to your own instructions and it all makes sense to you, save that video for another day and you can review and save time. Now, let's get a little bit more into self-talk, because this is a big topic. As musicians, we tend to be overly critical with ourselves, culturally and, and other reasons. And of course, this can also be projected onto others, and we don't realize that. Of course, I'm no exception. Self-discipline can coexist with self-compassion and encouragement. This is something that took me such a long time to learn, that it's not one or the other, but those all coexist. Now, some people do respond better to a little bit more strict self-talk, but strict does not necessarily mean it's negative. I personally like to talk to myself from an objective and neutral place. We want to be kind to ourselves. At the same time, we don't want to be delusional. Some of us cannot stand cheerleading overload. But if you're into that and that helps you to keep going and make progress, and by all means, cheer away. I do have to say that I learned recently that there is a lot of power in highlighting even the smallest of improvements, especially when you're trying to get over past a major obstacle, or if you reach a certain level and it's just so hard to make gains, because the learning curve, let's say you're a beginner, the learning curve looks something like this, and it flattens as you get to the top. It still goes up, but it's harder to make those gains when you get to a certain point. So even the smallest of improvements, it gives you not just encouragement to keep going, but it gives you valuable information. We're too smart to fool ourselves. So this evidence-based progress on video will help us to gradually build confidence, competence, and self-trust all at once. It can take a lot of patience, and I know that everybody wants to get to a certain goal so fast. We live in this world of TikTok and Instagram Reels and unlimited doom scrolling, which, let's be real, reprograms even the smartest of human brains, sapping away our attention capacity and what I like to call false doses of dopamine, because, let's be real, most of the doom scrolling does not leave us happier after. So hopefully with a healthy self-talk, not only will you become a better player, but you'll become more patient and strengthen the relationship you have with yourself. And here are a few more tips on self-talk, and this is something that helps me. If you're struggling with something, let's say intonation or rhythm, and it's getting really frustrating, don't attach the word you, like if you're talking to yourself in second person, or I, if you're talking in first person. You don't want to attach those words to what is happening. Instead of saying, oh, I'm playing so out of tune here, say, this note is so sharp. How did it end up so sharp? What was it, the hand frame? Was the shift too fast? let's try a few different things here. What should it sound like? Let's sing it. Okay, so these are more helpful things to say. Now, I personally like using the word we, because there are two of us. There's the player and there's the listener slash teacher, I guess, the teacher you. So I want to be on my own team. I prefer not to fight with myself. How many of you like to fight with yourself sometimes? If something improved, I can say, okay, we got better at this passage and we did it by doing X, Y, and Z. I think, let's see if we can replicate this. And by saying let's see, I'm not putting pressure on myself because I said let's see. Maybe the word curiosity helps also to kind of, because I said let's see. I didn't say, hey, do it again, that was good. And that's fine if it works for you. But if I say, hey, do it again, maybe I'm putting too much pressure to do well. And then it's hard to do it the same way again. But if I say, let's see, then I'm opening up to the possibilities. And maybe it'll be even better because I said, let's see. I'm not saying this is how we're going to do it. Because that'll box you into a certain way of doing things. But there is no limit. You know, this is a fine art. There's no limit to what is possible. Another thing that I'm building into my vocabulary, my self-talk vocabulary more, is the word yet. It's not in tune yet. The 16th notes aren't quite even yet. What is the next best step to get it closer? You can also say, oh, that was so close. Oh, but it's getting late. So let's leave our bookmark here for tonight and save this for later to review and continue. So you're building this self-trust by being like, okay, it's okay, we can stop right here. We're making progress. We have evidence on video, and I gave myself instruction in case I forget how I did it. Okay, and that way you don't over practice. You have better time management, and then you just learn to trust yourself better in the process. You're enjoying the process more. So finally, at the end of the practice session, you want to write down what went well and write down what's on deck for the next time. And last thing, let's say you have a recital coming up. What you can do is make a folder on your computer or in the cloud. Rename the files that you make, the little video files, with the date and the piece and the section that you're practicing. You can write also what kind of practice you're doing. Are you working on intonation? Are you giving yourself new fingerings in this video? Or are you working on this is just a playthrough progress video? And you put it in the file name, and then you store it in that folder or in the cloud, wherever you like to store things. This way you can clear out some storage in your phone. That way you don't suddenly make a lot of these videos and then one day you're like, oh, I want to record this, and then you realize your phone is out of storage. So you don't want to have these frictions kind of in the way. This is part of why when we start doing this process, we want to make it as easy as possible. Okay, we don't want to have a fancy room with fancy acoustics every single time. You know, if you can do it, then great, but most of the time we're not going to have that luxury. We want to make it easy to start, because 80% of the game is just showing up. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comment section below your biggest takeaway. By the way, if you have not already done so, I have a free newsletter. Links down in the description below. You'll get a summary of all my latest content in your email inbox. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the notification bell, and happy practicing.